Six Nations Team of the Week for round number 3, folks. Hard week to pick because of the lopsided or different natures of some of the games. How many French players do you pick? Because they were bloody amazing. Or were the Italians just rolling out the red carpet for them? How much credit do you give to the Welsh in their match against the Irish? Because they certainly lived to their performance levels, but up until this point, you would have thought they were kind of easy beats. It's a tough one, but we'll go through them. 15 guys, plus a few honourable mentions, and as always, you guys let us know your thoughts on who you would be picking. I am going to go with one that I think is a pretty easy pick, although you could have the other guy who got man of the match. Antoine Dupont. He's pretty good. This is again like, it was only against Italy. Well, he still did some pretty bloody amazing stuff. He scores 2 tries and sets up 3 tries. So a direct hand in 5 of France's tries. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, he shows that ability to run that good support line for his first one. He shows a bit of power and pace for his second. He sets up 3, like I mentioned. His ability to just snipe and pop that ball to the guys coming onto it at pace. He's very, very good. His stats-wise, 18 runs, 87 meters, which is crazy stuff. Remember, he finishes the game at 10, so he plays multiple positions. Couple of clean breaks, beats 6 defenders, 83 passes, including 8 offloads. Yeah, Dupont's very good. 5 from 7 tackles. Does have 3 turnovers conceded, so a couple of missed tackles and a few balls that went awry, but ultimately, man, the guy is very, very good. One guy who's maybe not the most popular guy outside of the country he plays for, but Maro Itoje is also a very good rugby player. He gets his mitts into the areas that disrupt opposition ball. I'm sure Scottish fans would have liked to see him penalised more. All Blacks fans always love Richie McCaw, so I assume it's the same with England fans and Itoje, but everyone else tends to not like them because, yeah, the dude was effective at getting turnovers. He won 3 of them this week, which is joint first place, so his battle at the breakdown was certainly one of the kind of key battles in the winning of that game for England. He also makes 13 from 14 tackles, which is a phenomenal defensive shift. So Maro Itoje, making tackles and winning turnovers. Who would have thought it? He is genuinely one of the best defensive kind of locks in the game. He also wins 7 lineouts, which is another area of strength for him. 4 runs for 4 meters is pretty average, but that's never been the big strength of Maro's game. It's generally been about his defense. 3 passes, does concede 1 penalty, but yes, very big part in shutting down the Scots in their game. I did manage to get a Scot, though, on the board. Whoops, Maro's not a loose forward, Mark. He is a lock. One of the loosies, Jamie Ritchie, one of the guys he was directly up against in that battle for turnovers was Jamie Ritchie. Jamie Ritchie likewise got 3. So the two of them were joint winners, if you want to call it that, for the top amount of turnovers won this week. So Ritchie, he plays well against England, and he was genuinely pretty phenomenal. Maybe I'm a little bit biased to guys who are able to pilfer the ball. For me, it's one of the kind of key aspects that separates sometimes, good players, useful players from that kind of X-factor player. Jamie Ritchie certainly showed a fair bit of that in this game. 9 from 11 tackles, so likewise very busy on defence along with those 3 turnovers. He wins 6 lineouts, so he's only 1 behind Itoje, and he's Scotland's top lineout option in that game. 13 passes, so very good at getting his hands on the pill. 7 runs, 11 meters, a clean break. Also concedes just the 1 penalty, but yeah, sometimes I just one of my favourite games of all time, which was not a high-scoring game, was that. Do you remember that game, Wales against Australia back in the day, where it was just like David Pocock and Justin Tipuric going head-to-head at the breakdown? That game was, I think, 7-6, but it was a belter in terms of just seeing guys do defensive work. These 2 guys kind of are picked in that same kind of spirit. Who else did I go with? I managed to get one of the Irish lads on the board, also in the second row, a big physical presence in Joe McCarthy. Now, the Wales and Ireland game didn't lend itself to the kind of most flashy of flashy stats because it was a bit more tight, especially compared to the last game of the week. But Joe McCarthy 4 runs for 21 metres. Like, again, at face value, it doesn't seem that flash, but for a lock to be getting that many metres from that many carries, I mean, look at him to Itoja. They both had 4 runs. One guy has 4 metres, one guy has 21. So it is a good ability for a big rangy lock to be able to get some go forward in the tackle, and that's exactly what McCarthy brings now that he's back fit. And he beat 3 defenders, which was more than anybody else in that game against the Welsh. Like, you wouldn't have picked it going into the game that one of your second rowers is going to lead the way for defenders beating. You'd think, oh, maybe one of the midfielders, maybe Henshaw or maybe James Lowe or something like that. Joe McCarthy in the midfield. I mean, maybe Jack Conan you would have thought, but McCarthy, very, very busy there. 8 from 10 tackles, solid enough defensive shift, including 1 dominant tackle, 5 passes, an offload, wins a couple of lineouts, concedes 1 penalty. But yeah, overall, he's a really good guy to have in that second row, which adds like a very different kind of game compared to like a Maru Itoja. He is a more menacing kind of ball-carrying threat because he is just as I said, very physical specimen. I managed to get another one of the French guys on the board, kind of unsurprisingly, Leo Barret, the fullback. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting selection question for a fortnight's time as to who plays fullback, because you've got Thomas Ramos, who was playing 10 this week, and Intermac will be back. Do you go back to Intermac and then Ramos? But Barret looked really good. Really good at fullback. He's a big dude, so it gives him a bit of an advantage under some high balls, which could be potentially coming your way. He ends up with 2 tries in this game, showed that he's really got that bit of power in his game when he goes over for one of them. He finishes with 131 metres, which is more than anyone this week. I mean, I know at fullback sometimes you get a few easy ones on the kick return, but he's still got some hard yards in there as well. 6 defenders beaten, 2 clean breaks, and 11 passes, like really looking to get involved in the play. It was good to see the French outside backs, looking for work, particularly Barret and Bielbiere. Right, Bielbiere was off his wing half the time, getting involved, which is pleasing. When you got guys with those kind of skill sets, you want to get them into the game. 2 from 3 tackles, wins a turnover, doesn't concede any penalties. He does have a couple of turnovers conceded, but ultimately very, very positive headache for Fabien Galtier to have in terms of picking who plays where. Next week, I've put another one of the French guys here. I think maybe it's his best game of the Six Nations in a while. Yoram Moefana was actually able to kind of unleash a bit more than we've seen from him in the kind of recent times. He finished with some really nice attacking numbers. He's got a try assist. Of course, it's to that man Dupont as he kind of gets himself into some space. Dupont is there with the support line and the power and the gas to get over, but Moefana gets the initial break. He finishes with 2 clean breaks in that game, beats 4 defenders, 8 from 8 tackles, so solid defensively. 17 passes. 17 passes for your 12 is huge involvements. You sometimes see 10s who don't get that many passes in a game. Obviously, France had a lot of ball, but they were putting it through the hands. He's kind of one of your key guys in making those decisions to spread the ball. 4 offloads as well. A kick, 70 metres, just offensively. Yeah, as I said, best game I've seen him play in a while. In a game where a lot of the guys for France, to be fair, looked very good offensively. Another Lucy, and I have gone with Ben Earl. I feel like for England, likewise, was one of the guys able to chew through a few yards with ball in hand. He's very good at that. He's, I think, the top English forward in terms of his go forward. He finishes with 3 defenders beaten in 30 metres in a game which wasn't that kind of open, like I mentioned, certainly not like the last game. 12 carries, so he is one of their guys who they call upon to get the ball over the advantage line when they need it, and massive defensively. 17 from 19 tackles. He's your top tackler of the game. Plus, he's got a dominant tackle in there. Plus, he wins a turnover. He does concede a couple of penalties. He only passes twice, so he's usually head down into the contact or getting his hands on some Scottish ball carriers. But, yeah, Ben Earl, quite a defensive outing from him, I thought. And then to round out the loose trio, I put Jack Conan in there from Ireland. He gets a try, which were pretty hard to come by in what was a pretty solid Welsh defence, you'd have to say. He shows a bit of power for that try. He's got 10 carries of that game, so he's the top Irish forward for getting the ball on the carry in the absence of Caelan Doris. He was certainly stepping up to the plate. 29 metres, again, against the pretty stingy Welsh defence, actually looks pretty solid. He's got an offload in there. Defensively, 10 from 10 tackles plus a turnover 1. So getting through the work on defense as well, not just the flashy stuff. And as I said, the kind of try is the icing on the cake. So good to see him, making the most of a start when given the opportunity. I mentioned this guy earlier, Louis Bielbiere. I mean, left wingers, I've kind of, as I picked this in relatively similar order to the order I wrote it down, left wingers were very good generally this week. But Bielbiere has a hand in 4 of the tries for France. I know they scored a lot, but again, the skills are pretty magic. He gets just the 1 try himself, which was again out on the right wing as he looks for work, and he gets 3 try assists. A Dupont try assist again out on the right wing. He's got a really nice wide ball for Atisogbe, so very much quite capable of getting his hands on the ball. And just, he often immediately catches the ball and just looks for the grubber because he knows he's got a very, very good chance of beating whoever is chasing that ball with him once he grubbers it. He's just such a hard man to catch. He almost does it instinctively. Just look for the grubber, look for the grubber, look for the grubber. He finishes with 3 kicks in this game. One of his grubbers helps kind of set up a try. 3 from 4 tackles from him. Doesn't concede any penalties. A defender beating a clean break. 11 runs, so very, very busy. Whether he's on the left, whether he's on the right, whether he's scoring himself or setting up tries. I thought he did very, very well. Hugh Jones, I've put him in the midfield as well because he's looked, I think, the business for the Scots in what was a pretty narrow loss. I mean, he gets a try, which he showed some pretty good power to make sure Slightholme wasn't going to be able to stop him. Kind of right on the line. He finishes with 36 metres, which is up there in terms of that game, which, as I said, wasn't that easy, especially from the midfield to get that go forward. 5 passes, an offload, makes all his tackles, although only 4 from 4. But yeah, Hugh Jones is having a bit of a good tournament, I think, but sadly for Scotland, it wasn't quite enough. Now, the last few picks, I feel like the ones that are kind of hard, I actually managed to get, I usually go with the front rowers first, but Wilgriff John on the tight head for Wales. I mean, you got to give some credit to that Welsh scrummaging effort, don't you? And Wilgriff John was a big part of that. That's a big part of what was the best Welsh performance we've seen for a while. So they can certainly hold their heads up high with that one. Like, he had 7 carries and wasn't really going anywhere. But the scrum was winning them penalties, not all of the time, but much of the time. They gave Ireland a harder time at scrum time than maybe I think a lot would have predicted. And he's defensively really solid. 10 from 12 tackles, including a couple of dominant tackles. So a couple of passes and offload. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, the scrum was a bright spot for Wales and their attacking shape just generally, but it was good to see that platform kind of start up front. Right winger, I ended up going with Theo Atisogbe. He looked a bit quiet for a while, but when he finally got some ball, he managed to show us what he could do, stepping in for Damien Penaud, who was dropped for this game. So took his opportunity when he got that ball. I mean, he scored a really nice, powerful try. He showed a really nice offload, one-handed offload for Louis Bielbiere's try. Was pretty slick. So he finishes with a try and assist. He's first equal this week for clean breaks. He got 3 of them. 3 defenders beaten as well. 76 metres from 7 carries is also a very good return. And then he's France's top tackler with 10 from 12, which is not something you expect from your right winger. So a couple of turnovers conceded. I don't think he could stop Menoncello for one of the Italian tries. But overall, I thought Atisogbe was a good addition to that barnstorming French performance. Hooker was tough, but I ended up going with Movaka from France. I think he was pretty solid. I feel a bit bad because I've kind of neglected the French forwards. Sometimes that happens when you go 7-1 split because the guys don't get as many minutes as they might have if they play kind of deep into the game. But Movaka scored his maul try really well. He had 6 carries for 17 metres, which is solid enough without being spectacular. He made 6 out of 7 tackles. The line-out was 100%. He didn't concede any penalties. He won a turnover, so very, very solid. But when you've got bloody backs getting 3 try assists here, 2 tries there, doesn't quite stand out as much, but certainly laid the platform for the backs to do their work. I also managed to get another Englishman on here, and Alice Gensch. I thought he was busy as well. One of his better games for England in a wee while. Didn't concede any penalties, which is nice. Made all his tackles, 9 from 9, which is great. And he was getting positive meters on the carry. For a prop to have 5 carries, 9 meters means he is getting go forward ball. The prop's doing well is usually a meter at 2 meters at 1 carry kind of thing. So he's around about that margin, because a lot of props either go negative or they go 0. They're just kind of getting a carry so they can carry through another phase and kick or something like that. But no, Genj, certainly positive on the carry, which was pleasing. Couple of passes, doesn't concede any turnovers. Very solid outing from him. And then number 10, I think, was the hardest one. I actually changed my mind. I ended up going with Ramos. I initially had Finn Smith and I initially had Prendergast. So I was kind of chopping and changing. I think Prendergast's campaign, his all-round game is not quite there yet, but he's certainly very, very promising. Missed a few too many tackles. All the 10s missed a few tackles, to be fair, but you'd say Finn Smith was maybe the most defensively kind of destructive player, putting in a couple of really dominant hits, which helped England. But Ramos, I mean, overall, kept the ball moving in that back line, which just needed the ball through the hands. He was often the link-up man. He finishes with 28 passes? Something crazy. 28 passes, 3 offloads, 4 kicks, and then also, like in the wake of that Scottish loss, like how good is it to have a goal kicker who kicks the vast majority of the goals? He kicked some really tough kicks. He didn't get them all, but he got most of them. So he finished with 8 conversions in that game. Obviously wasn't a difference maker, but it's nice knowing you've got a guy who's able to kind of give you those, plus 16 points from the boot. So immense effort from him. 43 meters, a clean break, couple of defenders beaten, 4 from 7 tackles, but just that quick ball, pretty reliable goal kicking, good link-up man. So yeah, it's going to be interesting for Galtier. I feel like he's going to put Ramos back to fullback and go into Mac, but we'll kind of have to wait and see in a fortnight's time. Other honourable mentions, Nicky Smith played really well for Wales in the front row. Good part of that, as I said, that Welsh scrum, penalty ability to generate from scrum time. When he went off for a brief time, Wales started conceding penalties, so Nicky Smith was certainly positive. The other French forwards, Guillard was amazing. Aldrit was also really busy on the carry. Boudillon was also very immense. Falatel for Wales was also busy. Jack Morgan was busy. A bunch of the other Scottish and English guys were also like the Curry boys, especially Ben, I thought had a really good impact off the bench too. Gibson Park is man of the match in his game, but can't make the board because of bloody Dupont with his 5-try input performance in terms of assists and passes. But yeah, Gibson Park is certainly one classy operator. Finn Smith, like I mentioned, if I was going to pick a second guy ahead of Ramos, it probably would have been him. Finn Smith, I thought, was very mature in that performance. Bundy Aki, massive impact off the bench. If you were going to pick an Italian, maybe Menoncello. He had a good impact going forward, managed to get a try and busted some tackles, made a few tackles. And then the outside backs for the other sides, Blair Murray had the most defenders beaten this week with 11. He still looks really sharp, but he hasn't really had a chance to properly show off given he's been in a losing side, but he looks dangerous. James Lowe may not have had the kind of pure attacking numbers that some of the other guys got, but the try assist he got was great. And then his big boot certainly gave Ireland some good territorial advantage. Duane van der Merwe had another good game against England. Alice Mee, I thought, was good on his debut. We could go on, but we need to wrap it up. That is the team of the week. You guys let us know your thoughts on who you would be picking if you were picking them. Subscribe to the channel if you want more rugby videos, because there will certainly be a few more of those. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.